Okay, in this video, I'm going to talk about the IMAX B6AC battery charger with customized firmware. This battery charger is designed to charge up to 6 cell batteries with up to 50 watts power, and it can discharge the batteries with up to 5 watts power. I made some modifications to this charger so that it can discharge with up to 10 watts power, so it basically get doubled. Okay, so this is how it looks like after you power on the charger. The very first line is the options menu. Followed by that, you would have to, well, you can see some other charge presets. There are actually 20 presets available. Of course, in this charger, I have only done 2 of them. Okay, so I have a LiPo 3S battery and a LiPo 6S battery. All right, so press enter to get into the options menu. There are 3 options here: reset EEPROM, calibration, and settings. So if you want to do a factory reset, then you want to go for this one. Okay, and if you want to make changes to the charger, you can get into the settings menu. There are multiple options for you to do. The very first one is the option for you to update the beeps. So if it is set to yes, then every single key press will produce a beep. And if you change it to no, then you will hear nothing. The problem with that is it also turns off the alert sound, meaning that if you're doing a charge or discharge program, if they're done, that means there will be no sound alert. I personally would leave it on. Okay. Minimum charge and the maximum charge, these are the currents. Maximum charge is set by the charger, so that's 5 amps, and the minimum charger is 50 milliamps. That's basically just 1% of the maximum charge current. And the minimum discharge current and maximum discharge current, this one is also set by the charger, so that's 2 amps. Originally that's 1 amp. Okay, so now it's 2 amps. And the minimum discharge is set to 50 milliamps. And the input low is the input cutoff voltage. It is by default set to 10. Basically, it matters when you're using a LiPo battery to power your charger. But now we're using the built-in AC adapter, so that's not a problem. If you're using external, like power supplies or external batteries, especially LiPo batteries, you do not want to over discharge them. So you want to set this voltage very, very carefully. Okay. ADC noise is used to improve the precision of the voltage detection. I'm not an expert on that, so I will leave it off. And I find the charger still has a very good accuracy when it detects the voltage of the batteries, so it's not really a big deal. UART that you're used to communicate with the computer. And menu, you can set it to simple or advanced, because we want to make changes. We want to customize the termination voltage of your LiPo battery in charge, discharge, and storage. So we want to set to advanced so that you can see these settings. Otherwise, if you set it to simple, you can't really see the settings. Button, that one basically sets the order of these 2 buttons. Okay. And reset settings, basically if you go for this one, it's gonna clear all the settings in this menu. Alright, press stop, going back to the upper level. The next option is calibration. So you can use it to calibrate your charger including the voltage, charge current, discharge current, and external temperature. There is also an expert mode for you to calibrate the voltage in a more accurate way, but since it requires some extra very precise component, if you do this in a wrong way by accident, you're gonna take the risk to damage the charger. So I'm not suggest doing that. As far as the voltage, charge current, and discharge current, these are the three things you want to calibrate. So the voltage, if you want to calibrate your voltage, you're recommended to have a 6S battery. If you do not have a 6S battery, you want to have two 3S batteries. You put them in series so that you can make a 6S battery. It is not required to have a 6S battery, but like I said, I recommend you to do that. Even though you have a 3-cell battery, you can still do the calibration. So see, it works, right? The only problem is that you can only calibrate the first 3 channels. Okay, so you can't really calibrate the last 3 channels. So 3, 4, and 5, you cannot do that, and 6. Sorry, I mean you can actually calibrate 1, 2, and 3, but you cannot calibrate 4, 5, and 6 because they're not connected. The other thing I would say is you want to have a relatively accurate multimeter or voltmeter when you do this calibration, because it has like 3 digits after the decimal point. You absolutely don't want to have a multimeter that can only show 2 digits after the decimal points. And for the charge current, there are 2 calibration points. You have to do them separately. Discharge current is the same. External temperature, you will have to hook up an external temperature probe so that you can calibrate them. So if I hook it up, it shows about 18 Celsius degree. Okay, so if you find that this is not correct, you want to make changes to that. Okay, it looks like at this moment this temperature probe is very, very accurate, so I'm not going to touch it. Okay, so coming back to the battery charge interface, so these are the things you can set up. Okay, so for example, this one is what I have done. If I get into it, there are multiple options. I have fast charge, charge and balance, storage and balance, discharge, and capacity check. The very last one is to edit battery. So you can change the type of the battery. For example, this is NiCad, lead acid, and life battery, Li-ion, LiPo. To me, I use LiPo the most. Okay, so I just set it to LiPo, and this is the number of cells and voltage. You can set it to whatever you want, but up to 6 cell for sure. Because I mostly use this charger to charge my 3-cell batteries, so I think this one is what I use most. Okay, so this one you can set the full voltage of the LiPo battery. By default, it's 4.2 volts, and if you have like high voltage LiPo battery, you can set it to 4.35. That's very simple. Okay, you can set to whatever you want. Okay, but I'm gonna change it back. I'm gonna put stop. Okay, storage by default is 3.85 volts. You can change it to whatever you want. I will leave it there, you know. And discharge is 3.00 volts. I honestly don't suggest people use 3.0 volts because for LiPo batteries, you're risking over discharge it. Okay, so for me, I would set it to 3.5. All right, this is the capacity. By default, it's 2,000 milliamp hours. This one I have 2200, so I just set it to 2200. It will be used to help the charger determine the cutoff capacity. Okay, doesn't really matter if you don't use that. And this is charge current. That's a 2.2 amp charge current. I'm not sure if I can make it bigger. Sure, I can make it bigger. So I can change it to 5 amp. Okay. Minimum charge, I leave it as is. That's 500 milliamp. And discharge current, by default, this is 550 milliamp. I think it's not by default. But anyway, that's actually the limit of the original B6 AC charger. But I can set it to this moment. I can actually set it to this one. So that's basically, it doubles the ability. To be safe, I would like to set it to like 1 amp. Okay. Minimum discharge, that's 100 milliamp. Balance error, that's 8 millivolts. What it does is to terminate the balance charge or balance program when the voltage difference between every two. I think it's yeah, it checks the voltage errors between the cells. And if it's smaller than 8 millivolts, you're done, okay? And the programs would be terminated. And external temperature, if you want to use the temperature probe to monitor the temperature of the battery, you want to turn on this feature, okay? So let's turn it on. And there is actually a cutoff temperature. It's by default set to 6 Celsius degree. I would like to set it to a little lower temperature because at 60, I don't know if you're already risking damaging your battery. And a time limit, you can set it to a particular number. By default, there is no limit. Okay, and the rest of them, I don't think I have to talk in details. Okay, so if you get into capacity check, it's going to show you some information of the battery. So this one shows that this is a LiPo battery. This is a 3S, 11.1 volts by default. And CC stands for capacity check. You will find that that's actually abbreviate of the program. So capacity check would be CC, and discharge, let's see what happens to discharge. Okay, the DS. Okay, for discharge and storage and balance, that will show SB. Yes. Anyway, so let's just do a charge and balance. It's going to show you charge and balance. 63% shows the remaining capacity in it. That basically is determined by according to the voltage. I'm not really sure if this is 100% correct, because I believe that at this moment they probably should be lower than 63%, but you know, probably the original author of the firmware thought it in a different way. Anyway, I would leave it there. And 11.4 volts, that's actually detected from the main leads. So if I, say for example, if I disconnect the battery, it's going to show. Yep. See, this one is slowly decreasing, so that basically it cannot detect the voltage. But if I plug it in, you have no problem. this one shows the voltage on the balance plug. So if I disconnect the balance plug, your main lead still detects 11.4 volts, but here it shows nothing. Okay. All right, and if you press increase, you will see the voltage for every single cell. This one has 3.824, 827, 824. So they're very, very balanced at this moment. And the external temperature is 20.5 Celsius degree. And here are some limits. This is the cutoff capacity, and this is the cutoff voltage. This is the charge current. Okay. And this is the input voltage and the limit. That's the low voltage cutoff. That's pretty much it. So if you want to use the temperature probe to monitor the temperature of the battery, this is a little, short. You might want to use an extension board, say here. What I can do is, okay. All right. It's not looking so good. It's a little messy. And you want to this one is tape so that you can fix it on the battery. Okay, now it looks good. All right. Okay, so if you think that everything is good and you're good to go to charge the battery, just press and hold star. Okay, you're done. Now it starts to charge. So the current is gonna ramp up slowly. I would say not necessarily slowly. It's almost 3 amps. And this shows how many milliamp hours have been pumped into the battery. And C means that it is currently charging. And this is the time. This is the voltage of the battery. And you can see that at this moment the charging current is 4.4 amps. Okay, and you can see that the battery voltages are slowly increasing. And here are some battery icons. If you see the battery with like an empty cell, meaning that it is currently the lowest cell, or what I should say is that it is the cell with the lowest voltage, and it will be used as the reference cell. And if you see this flashing icon, that means that particular cell, these two cells are currently being charged. Okay, so you can also see some letters. If you're seeing like M, meaning that it is measuring, currently it is measuring the internal resistance of the cells. And if you see a B, that means it is currently balancing the cells. Okay. And if you press increase, you can see these internal resistance. And you can see the resistance of the whole battery and the wire. And here are some limits. There's time limits, but there is actually no time limits, so it shows no limit. And this is your balance time. This is a total time. I'm sorry, that one is total time. And this one, not really sure, but I guess it's just charge time. And the external temperature is still 20.1 Celsius degree, so it stays very stable. Of course, with 5 amps charge current, this battery should not become warm at all. And this is the limits, and the input, this is what we have already seen. Okay. All right, I think that's pretty much it for the charge function. And you can't really feel any temperature here. It's pretty cool. And I'm gonna terminate that, and we want to do a storage and balance charge so that we can actually see the discharge current. Okay. So now it shows D, meaning that it is currently doing discharge. And the current is gonna slowly ramp up. Okay. The problem is that since they're already very close to the storage voltage, the amps really won't go up. Okay, so let me change it to let me use discharge, so you can see the discharge current, because this is gonna discharge it to 3.5 volts. Now we're at like 3.86, so it's a lot above that. Okay, so now we can see that the discharge current has bumped up to 859 milliamp, and I'm expecting the heat sink to be a little warm. Yep, actually it's getting warmer. It's getting warmer. And you can see that the discharge power is 9.99 watts. Originally it has 5 watts. Okay, so it gets doubled. Yep, it's getting warmer. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I really like this charger, and it does its job, especially when you're not charging a lot of big packs. This charger is absolutely a very good choice for you. Okay, thank you so much for watching.